The rattling gold elevator stopped at the third floor of the Institute. Clary took a deep breath and stepped out into the hallway. The place was, as Alec and Isabel had promised her it would be, so quiet it had a deserted feel. She felt as if she could hear the brush of dust motes against each other as they danced in the window light. She could most certainly faintly hear the traffic on York Avenue outside. She set off down the hall. She could remember the first time Jace had taken her through these corridors, his careless, light voice telling her about Shadowhunters, about Idris, about the whole invisible world she had never known existed. She had watched him as he talked. Secretly, she thought, that she knew now that Jace noticed everything. She reached the library door without encountering another Shadowhunter and pushed the door open. The room still gave her the same shivers it had the first time she'd seen it, circular because it was built inside a tower. The library had a second-floor gallery that ran along the midpoint of the walls, just above the rows of bookshelves. The desk, Clary still thought of as Hodge's, rested in the center of the room. Carved from a single slab of oak, the wide surface rested on the backs of two kneeling stone angels. Clary half expected Hodge to stand up behind it, Hugo perched on his shoulder, his eyes keen and bright. Shaking off the memory, she headed quickly for the circular staircase at the far end of the room. She was wearing jeans and rubber-soled sneakers. Her feet made no sound as she bounded up the steps and onto the gallery, a narrow sort of balcony that ran around the library's circular interior. There were books up here, but they were locked away behind glass cases. Some looked very old, their covers frayed, their bindings reduced to a few strings. But others were clearly books of dark and dangerous magic. Unspeakable cults, the demon's pox, a practical guide to raising the dead. She gave a little shudder, moving past them toward a glass-topped case nestled between two shelves. Inside it gleamed two rings. The case was locked, of course, but a quick open rune, Clary biting her lip as she drew it, careful not to make it too powerful lest the glass case burst apart and bring people running, unsnapped the lock. Clary made the switch, carefully wrapping the real rings in her green velvet coat before slipping them back in her backpack. The entire process took less than 3 minutes. It was only as she turned away, sliding her stele back in her pocket, that she hesitated. Was this really her, stealing from the clave to pay the queen of the fair folk? Whose promises, Jace had told her once, were like scorpions with a barbed sting in the tail. But the clave isn't going to do anything, argued a small voice in her head. Jace needs your help. She shook her head as if to clear the voice away like cobwebs, and froze. The door to the library was opening. She could hear the creak of wood, muffled voices, footsteps. Without thinking, she dropped to the ground, flattening herself against the cold wooden floor of the gallery. You were right, Jace, came a coolly amused voice from below. This place is deserted. The ice that had been in Clary's veins seemed to crystallize, freezing her in place. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She had not felt a shock this intense since she had seen her father run a sword through Jace's chest. Very slowly, she inched her face towards the edge of the gallery and looked down. The sloping roof above rose to a point, set with a glass skylight. Sunlight poured down, lighting a portion of the floor below like a spotlight on a stage. The chips of glass and marble and bits of semi-precious stone that had laid the floor formed a design. The angel Raziel, his wings outspread. Standing directly on one of the wings was Sebastian. So this was what he looked like, she thought. Really looked like. A pale face, all angles and planes. Tall and thin, in black gear. His hair was silvery white, not dark as it had been dyed when she had first seen him. The pale color suited him better. His eyes were black and snapping with life and energy. Standing beside him, his hair shimmering in the pale sunlight, was Jace. Not Jace as she had imagined him so often over the past 2 weeks. Beaten or bleeding, or suffering, or starving, locked away in some dark cell, calling out for her. This was Jace as she remembered him, when she let herself remember. Hands careless in the pockets of his jeans, his marks visible through his white t-shirt, a dark brown jacket that brought out the gold undertones to his skin. He looked flushed and healthy, and normal and beautiful. He tipped his head back. I'm always right, Sebastian, he said. You ought to know that about me by now. Sebastian gave a measured look and then a smile. Clary stared. It had every appearance of being a real smile. But what did she know? Sebastian had smiled at her before, and that had turned out to be one big lie. So what are the books on transference? Is there any order to the chaos here? Not really, Jay said. It's not alphabetized. It follows Hodge's special system. Isn't he the one I killed? That's inconvenient, said Sebastian. Maybe I should take the stairs. You can take the downstairs. He began to move towards the staircase. Clary felt her heart began to pound with wild terror. She wondered if he came at her, would she be able to drop to the gallery floor below without breaking her legs? She practiced falls before, but never without Jace. Sebastian had his foot on the lowest step when Jace called out to him. No, look, they're here. Filed under magic, non-demonic. Now where's the fun, Sebastian said, but he took his foot off the step and moved back towards Jace. This is quite a library. The care and feeding of your pet imp, demons revealed. Jace came up behind him, resting one hand on Sebastian's arm for balance, as he read a book over his shoulder. It was like watching Jace with Alec, but weird, inside out. Sebastian shut the book and hit Jace lightly on the shoulder with it. Some things I know more about than you. Did you get the books? I got them. Jace scooped up a bunch of books from a nearby table. Do we have time to go by my room? I need to get some of my stuff. What do you want? Jace shrugged. Clothes mostly, some weapons. Sebastian shook his head. Too dangerous. We need to get in and out. No time for you picking up your extra special genes that don't make you look fat. Only a cataclysmic event that actually altered the laws of physics could make me look fat, said Jace. It was so much like hearing him talk to Alec, like any of his friends. But my favorite jacket. Look, we have all the money we could want, said Sebastian. Buy clothes. And you'll be ruling this place in a few weeks. You could run your favorite jacket up the flagpole and fly it like a pennant. Girls will come running for miles around. Jace laughed. Fair enough. Come here. Sebastian grabbed the back of Jace's jacket and pulled him sideways. Now hold on to the books. He glanced down at his right hand where a silver ring glittered. With the hand that wasn't holding on to Jace, he used his thumb to twist the ring. Hey, Jace said, don't you think? He broke off for a minute. And Clary thought, maybe it was because he had looked up and seen her. His face was tilted upward. But even as she sucked in her breath, they both vanished, fading like mirages against the air.